Okay, so you just watched the video Intervene. So let's review the scenarios a little bit. In scenario 1, a stranger and friends intervene in a potential sexual assault. In scenario 5, classmates intervened in a sexual harassment, gender bias situation. And in scenario 6, a friend intervened into an intimate partner violence, which was an emotionally abusive relationship. Okay, so since we just watched the video Intervene, let's just discuss a couple different questions. First, in any of these scenarios, what did you think the characters see? What did the characters see or hear that concerned them?
The first one seemed pretty obvious. Me and Brittany were talking about that this girl was obviously wasted. She was not her typical self. Her behavior was really off.
Right.
And it seemed like her friends were noticing that too.
Yeah, they were. It was like she was like stumbling over her, like, is she okay? Like, what's kind of going on?
She was slurring her speech.
Right, yeah. Even some of the friends were kind of just like, oh, well, you know, we heard her talk about that she wants to, you know, sleep with him anyways. But another friend was just kind of like, okay, wait, well, let's make sure that's actually something she wants right now. So they're very engaging in making sure that she was okay.
Yeah, so this one's definitely that she was acting different. For the fifth one, I didn't think that one it seemed obvious to the characters in it, but then also, I don't know, it didn't seem as obvious as the first one.
I agree, yeah. It kind of gave a little bit of a slower start, I feel, or it took a little bit of time to develop, it seems like, what was actually happening.
Right, more subtle, less, I guess, like like she was really, the first one, she was just wasted.
Yeah, it was out there.
Very uncharacteristic. And with this one, it was this very kind of underhanded sexual harassment going on that was a little bit strange.
But I do think that once it happened and I think he said something about her waiting back and cleaning or something, and then something about her being in a lab coat and having to cover up. That was when it was like instant.
Yeah,
you knew that was it.
And other people were picking up on it. And we even talked about too how, I don't know if it's like a teacher's assistant, but it's like he's in some role of authority, which makes it even harder to kind of like point out these kind of things or even speak up about it.
Right, but it seemed like the friends were on the ball.
Yeah,
they were on it.
Definitely, very supportive.
What about the last one?
The sixth one.
That was with two friends and this partner that seemed to be really demanding a lot of the girl's attention.
Through text message and everything, they were just trying to have coffee.
Yeah.
Right, that's what it seemed like, was that it was like, this isn't like you, we're really not interacting here.
Yeah, she was like on her phone,
Yeah, so.
She tried to leave after like meeting for 5 minutes only, and he even said, you know, we've only been here 5-10 minutes.
Right, what's going on
Where
here?
are you going? Yeah.
This isn't how we used to hang out.
Right. Yeah. Good. The next question, what can make it hard to tell if the situation is serious enough to require someone to act?
We had a tough one with that. Because we were saying, we're like, what does make it serious enough to act? And so we came up with a few different things.
Right.
I know Brittany already mentioned, particularly with the fifth scenario, there was that person in authority. It was like, well, what do you do in that situation? Is that this is somebody who's in charge of us in the class.
Yeah.
How do we do that? And is it serious enough? Is this causing enough of a disturbance? Which it seemed like when they knew that she was upset too, that's when they were like, okay, we're definitely doing this. What about the first one?
Yeah, I thought when I watched it, I thought the characters are having a hard time determining the seriousness of it, because they said she's talked about him before, she might want to hook up with him, she has interest in him, but then it becomes, you know, she's wasted. So what do you do in that situation?
Exactly, because even if this is something she wanted, she can't even consent right now. So, and she might not even remember what's going on. So she's really not in the space to say that I can or cannot.
She doesn't have that option.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then the last one was, if the situation's serious enough to act. I think he struggled with that himself.
Yeah, it's a little different because he's like, wait, I don't want to step on her toes. Like, she's saying, like, yeah, everything's fine and this and that. He's just kind of like, okay, but you're still not acting the same way that you used to. So even like on his part, like, he was consistent with it, like continuously checking up. And then when she came back the second time, he was open to still having that conversation with her.
Yeah, and that's a good point, that it came back. It wasn't like that instant that she was listening, because she was not hearing that at all. it was later on, like down the road, that she kind of recognized herself. But even then, it seemed like he was like, I think I'm going to go with my gut on this.
Right.
And he did it in a caring way.
Yeah, because he could have easily just been like, oh, I tried to tell you the first time and you weren't listening, but like he was very caring and very open in that second conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Anything else for those?
I think we covered everything.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool. So to what extent did the characters feel responsible to do or say something?
In the first scenario, some of them felt responsible, but like one of the other friends who we brought up had said, oh yeah, well I think she said she wanted to sleep with him anyways. So it was like some people felt responsible, but then other people were kind of like, well no, like she's clearly drunk, like let's let's distract her, let's say, oh let's go to the bathroom and let's get the guy and let's play a game with him or something like that. So it was kind of split where some friends were just kind of like, okay yeah, like we'll help out, and other friends were just kind of like, no, she'll be fine, or things like that.
Which was the tough part, right? Because we had all these conflicting opinions, and that brings it back to that bystander effect, right? It's like there's so many people with so many different opinions on should we not? I don't really know. And so we kind of saw that play out in the first scenario. It was like, this is how confusing it can be. If you have one person that's on one end and the other person that's saying no way, how does it go?
I think it's important to point out in the first scenario, it was a stranger, I think, that first brought it to attention. Because he said, do you know her? You know, like, where are her friends? So it was the stranger who initiated that kind of worry or that concern about if she's okay.
That's a really
and then brought
good
it to
point.
her friends. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that changed things.
Yeah.
And then the fifth one, it seemed like they were all kind of in an agreement there.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty
Once they
solid,
recognized that she was bothered by this, it was like, hey, no matter what you decide, we've got your back.
Right. And even she was hesitant about it at first too. And like one of the guys in her was just kind of like, well, it's already happened multiple times, like, you know, because she's like, what if it gets worse? And he's like, it seems like almost like it's already getting worse, so let's do something now. To kind of intervene in that aspect.
Right.
Let's take some action.
And I think the one friend literally said, like, it's not right, it's not cool, like, you know, so they were pretty solid on how responsible they should be for it.
Yes, and the last one, it kind of seemed, we kind of already touched on that. It was like, should I intervene, should I not? But he went with it, and even then, how it wasn't necessarily immediately reinforced in one way, like, it's just kind of like, oh, whatever, kind of dismissed.
Right.
But it seemed like even that was kind of uncertain.
And I'm thinking about in that situation, he was the only one who knew too. So maybe it was like more of this, like, I'm the only one who knows about the situation. So
I got yeah.
I think he felt a huge level of responsibility for being her friend and caring about her and being the one that knew.
Right.
You know, he probably felt a lot of responsibility.
That's a good friend.
Yeah. Okay. What emotions might they have had to overcome in order to act?
We were talking about this. Because we were saying, the one that keeps coming up is ambivalence. It's that one of my favorite words. Once you learn what it means, and the fact that they felt torn. It's like, what do I do? Do I intervene? Do I not? And that seems to be the overarching in a lot of the situations, not even just the ones that we're discussing, but across the intervene videos.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fear.
Yes.
You know, fear of how people will react or what they'll think or if it's right, if it's not right.
Right.
You know.
Even with that last scenario, with the good friend saying, hey, I think this is an issue, and the fact that she did respond poorly, that was probably a fear there, is like, well, what if she reacts badly? What if I lose this friend? And how will that go?
Yeah, and even nerve-wracking, like before that, trying to figure out, okay, wait, I'm aware of what's going on, how do I say this? I don't want to hurt her feelings, I don't want her to assume anything, but things like that. So it's like all these thoughts, and then it's like, all right, I'm gonna do it, gonna finally say it. So maybe like nerve-wracking, and then maybe at some moments a feeling of relief of like, okay, I finally got this off my chest, and I did my part almost.
Right, and then even if it doesn't go that way, if there's not an intervene, maybe there's some guilt afterwards, or feeling ashamed that they didn't.
Right.
So it could go one of two ways. Yeah. But I think confusion too.
I was thinking that too, yeah.
It's like this, I don't
just
really
in general.
know.
Right.
Yeah. That's what should I do? What's the right way? And the thing is, like, sometimes there isn't a right way.
It depends.
It depends. So a few different emotions going into that. But
So in the film, we saw characters take action in many ways, both urgent and non-urgent situations. And there's different ways to take action. In non-urgent situations, you can listen, express concern, describe what you observe, offer support, and connect them to resources. On the other side of that, in urgent and emergency situations, don't assume others will act. Act with others if possible, and be direct or distract the person, and call for help. If you feel unable to safely engage before or during an incident, take action afterwards. Either way, it's important to do something.
What would have happened if no one intervened? How would this have impacted the person? And what about the bystander? These are questions that you should think of as you're looking through these scenarios and watching them and thinking about them. Let's think about the toddler story. So this has to do with a little girl who was teased by a little boy on the playground, and after he teased her, she began to cry. Now people were coming up with excuses like, oh, boys will be boys, or maybe he likes you, or oh, you're just a tattletailer. So how do you think some of these comments could have played a role in the little girl? It almost seems very dismissive. And let's also think about Kitty Genovese. Why didn't anyone intervene for Kitty?
Now, a few things to take away from our discussion. Remember that sometimes you need to act quickly. Sometimes you can choose when to act. Sometimes you are the only one who can act. And sometimes you can act with others. Doing something may involve taking a risk, but doing nothing may be a greater risk. We are all a part of a community. You can make a difference by caring and intervening.